Okay, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how I make sourdough cinnamon rolls. Let me show you my sourdough. It's all beautiful and bubbly, just like that. And I'm gonna use some of this for my cinnamon rolls. By the way, if I sound a little weird, it's because I have a little bit of a cold, but it's getting better. Anyways, let's get started. And this is, sourdough, you have to prepare some of it the night before so it can rest, almost 24 hours before you actually can make it, because you want all the flour to get in that fermenting process so that it breaks down the grains so that it's easier to digest. So let's get started. And what we will need is a half a cup of fed sourdough. And what I mean by fed is you will want to have given this some flour and water like at least 4 to 12 hours before you actually make the cinnamon rolls. You want to give it a good feed so it's really nice and bubbly and good to go so that it'll make better cinnamon rolls. So I'm going to actually be doing a double batch, but the recipe calls, the regular batch is for a half a cup of sourdough starter, but I will put in a whole cup of sourdough starter, and then there's like a whole cup of water, and then I will mix in like 8 cups of freshly ground spelt flour. And you can use any kind of flour you want. Now the recipe, where I got this recipe from, she used freshly milled hard wheat flour, but you can use wheat flour, you can use white flour. I'm sure if you use white flour, it'll even turn out a little bit better, but I love my freshly ground spelt flour, so that is what I'm using. And I mix that all together, and then I ask for a cup of melted coconut oil, but I'm actually out of coconut oil, so I'm just adding a mixture of butter and olive oil. That's what I'm going to add in my dough. And then a cup of honey. And now this is all doubled. This recipe is doubled. It will only be half that much for you to do it but we have a big family, so that's why I make a double batch. Okay, so now you just mix that all together until it forms a bowl. And then you place this dough in a greased bowl and then cover the dough with plastic wrap and allow it to rest in a warm place overnight or up to 24 hours. Okay, we are going to allow it to sit and just rest for a full 24 hours or close to it. And then I'll be back and we will do the rest of it. And this recipe actually takes baking powder too, so it helps it rise. I did another recipe where it did not take any baking powder and it just took sourdough starter. It took more sourdough starter and it actually tasted really sour to me. So I went for this recipe. I like it and it's a little bit easier. It's not quite as complicated. So I stuck with this one. And I will put this recipe in the description box below for you guys. And it comes from Farmhouse on Boone, and so that you can check it out there. I want to give credit where credit is due. It's not my recipe. I'm just using it, so you can find it on her website. So on a side note here, this is nothing about sourdough cinnamon rolls, but I have here a lot of wooden bowls and some cutting boards, and I'm going to make like a big charcuterie board just right here on my table, because we will be having like 9 couples here, something like that tonight. So we kind of set it up. We're having home group tonight, and it's home group. We're doing it on marriage, so that's why we have that big TV thing there, because we watch stuff about marriage. It's called the marriage course that we're doing, and so yeah, we're having fun with that. This is only the second time. I think we do it for 7 weeks, once a week, and this time everyone is bringing a little bit something for a charcuterie board, and I have some stuff that I'll put on right now to get ready, and then we'll just add all the other stuff, and I'll show you some pictures of the finished product then. So this is how it's looking right now, and Wyatt is checking it all out. He's been picking too. Wyatt, you can't put it back once you picked it up. Okay, here is what we have so far, and most of the people are bringing a few items too, so it'll keep filling up. I'm amazed at how much stuff I actually had. It looks good, Chloe, doesn't it? Yeah.
I can't wait to eat it.
I bet you can't. We had a great night that evening, just hanging out with all of our friends and listening to this marriage course, and it was all about communication and how to communicate and how not to communicate, and destructive ways to communicate and good ways to communicate. So it was really good. Joas and I have a good marriage, but it was really good to hear all of this again. Okay, this is how my dough is looking the next day. You always want to have it somewhere where it's pretty warm so that the dough stays soft and not too stiff. And now I gave Chloe some eggs to beat up, and here I'm putting in some baking powder and soda, and then also a little bit of salt. And then I will mix that all together with the eggs. And now you could do this in a mixer, which would probably have been easier, although I like to do stuff with my hands, so I often do that. And you might not want to mix in all the eggs at one time like I did, because it's a little bit harder to mix. I'm not sure actually if that would make a difference or not, but my dough was a little stiff, and it took me at least probably close to 10 minutes to mix in those eggs. But by the time I was all done, it was beautiful. It turned out beautiful and slightly sticky, just the way I wanted it. Now you let it rest for half an hour. And now you don't have to do that if you're in a hurry, because it has baking powder in it, but it makes it slightly softer. It gives it a slightly softer texture if you let it rest. And now here I'm spreading on some flour on the table, just a little sprinkling, and so that the dough doesn't stick, and you plop your whole pile of dough on there and sprinkle a little bit of flour on top, and then you just roll it out, not too thin but not too thick either. By the way, I didn't mention that it was only Chloe and I home that day. The school had a ski day, And so they all went skiing and Joas went with them. So I'm sure they'll be tired and hungry when they come back. So I will have some warm cinnamon rolls for them. Okay, once you have it rolled out, you will want to spread on some butter, and here I have melted butter, but you can also just use some softened butter, and that should be fine. And then we spread on all that cinnamon sugar. And Chloe loved this part. It was her favorite part because I'm sure she did some tasting too. Okay, now you want to roll it up nice and tightly, just like I'm doing here. Then you want to pinch the ends together really well. Pinch them together with your fingers, and then you want to cut them in about 1.5 to 2 inches thick. Now, after we cut all the cinnamon rolls, we layer them in pans. Here I had a cast iron skillet and a nice cake pan, and so we were just layering them in there. And then after you've done that, the recipe asks for you to put a 1/2 cup of cream in each pan. Just dump it over the cinnamon rolls. It gives them a really nice, creamy, soft texture and taste, but I didn't have that, so I omitted it. And I think maybe my cinnamon rolls were a little bit stiffer, but not that much of a difference. Again, if you're in a hurry, you do not have to do this next step, but I let them sit again for a 1/2 hour to an hour before I put them in the oven.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of the loudest praise.
So while the cinnamon rolls were baking, I made the frosting, and it calls for cream cheese, heavy whipping cream, maple syrup, and vanilla. Again, I didn't have heavy whipping cream, so I just omitted that, and it turned out just fine. I softened up my cream cheese and mixed it together and poured in the vanilla and the maple syrup, and it was just a very soft, creamy icing that I put over my cinnamon rolls. And as you can see, Chloe is coming in view every once in a while. She was putting away the dishes for me. Yummy! Look at these cinnamon rolls. Wow, they turned out pretty good. So I'm just gonna let them sit a little bit, and then I'm gonna frost them while they're still warm. And the rest of the family is coming home in about an hour, and then I'll have some warm cinnamon rolls for them after a long day of skiing. Now technically you should probably eat cinnamon rolls in the morning, but we're gonna have some delicious cinnamon rolls in the evening.
Let thy grace, O Lord, like a feather, bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take it, seal it for thy courts above. Here's my heart, Lord, take it, seal it for thy courts above.
Well, I think Autumn hears that they're home. All the skiers are home. I bet they're tired. Wind blowing. Hey, hey.
Hi, Mom.
Hey, Wyatt. Heshvenka. Hey, Betty. Ishmiat.
Yeah.
Hey, babe. Are you ready for some warm cinnamon rolls?
I would love some warm cinnamon rolls. I'm tired.
I bet you're pretty tired.
Driving and stuff.
Okay, the skiing party is sitting around the table.
Licking
And
our chops.
they're gonna test out these sourdough cinnamon rolls.
Ooh. There's only one piece. Sorry, kids. It's kind of a big piece, but I guess I'll have to make do.
Whoa.
It looks scrantabulous. Really delicious.
We're gonna have to have milk with that, aren't we?
Mm. Delish.
Okay, help yourself.
Let thy grace, O Lord, like a feather, bind my wandering heart to thee.
Okay, you guys. We're having almost a midnight snack, not quite.
It's quite late.
How fun did you have on the ski slopes?
Really fun.
Really fun.
Yep. I'm not that much of a skier, and I'm a little bit under the weather, so I decided to stay home with my little Chloe girl. And so I just got some rest and finished these cinnamon rolls. So I hope you try them, and I hope you love them, and we will see you next time. God bless.
God bless you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Here's my heart, Lord, take it, seal it for thy courts above. Here's my heart.